Hey, welcome back. This is part 3 of the cactus tutorial inside of Zbrush. So before we get there, if you love all things 3D, be sure to subscribe. Okay, so I am going to use an insert mesh brush and insert this capsule. This capsule is just a good starting shape that I wanted to go with. Scale it, move it into position. When I press W, that gets the gizmo out. And I'm going to press that little gear in the top left of your gizmo. Just like we used on the pot, we will be using many deformers throughout this process for the character. And at first I'm going to start just playing around with some shapes using taper, and I can also Z-remesh this. So once I make a change, if the geometry is too dense, not dense enough, I don't like the edge flow, I'll just Z-remesh to get something a little bit easier to work with. Now inside of those transform modifiers, I can grab these little triangles. And right now I'm on bend arc, so I can bend this little character whichever way I want. So this really just takes a lot of just playing around, seeing what each thing does, each modifier. There's extend, taper, bend, bend arc. In this section, so far I've used taper, I just used bend arc, and I will use bend curve. Okay, so I'm rotating around my model, just going back and forth, just seeing how it will read. Currently it's a little small, but I'm still just always rotating. You will never hear me stop saying, check your model from all angles. Just so everyone is aware, my cursor is purple. That's because I'm using Sculptress Pro mode currently. So with clay buildup, if I hold down Option or Alt on the keyboard, it's going to carve in, and that's how I'm gonna carve out these eyes. I don't know, some meat under the eyes, just playing around. At this point in the sculpt, I didn't know what I wanted this character to really look like. I wanted him to have a mouth open. So with clay buildup, holding down Alt, I'm going to carve out this mouth, playing with different mouth shapes. There's lots of ways you could have done this. You could have used Boolean if you want to Boolean that out, but I just want it to be very quick. I'm just carving out the mouth. With insert mesh, I can go ahead and drop in an eye. So just with the sphere, I can left click and drag, draw out the eye. Now this character was not done how you typically would make a character. You typically, like T-pose, use symmetry. I don't have symmetry at all, right? To me, for this project, it ended up being better not having symmetry. So typically you create your character, use symmetry, and then you break symmetry later. I just wanted to freeform this whole thing, and I think it gave him much more character, and it was really quick to do. So with the eyes and the move topological brush, I can come in there and just change the shape of that orbital socket, and as well as the eyeball. Gives it a little bit more character. Holding down Shift, I can smooth out any issues that I have. And with a damn standard brush, coming in, making this kind of slash through my character, because he is a cactus. I know right now he looks like a pickle, but eventually he will be a cactus. Playing around with the idea of these lines coming up through the face. It's kind of interesting process because I didn't want it to interfere with the eyes or the mouth, but it turned out okay. So really quickly, I'm already starting to see the personality of this character. So amount of time this took, maybe 10 minutes so far with my pickle boy. Playing around with some ideas, and you can tell nothing is very refined, and that is okay. So to do these cuts, I use Lazy Mouse. So at the top of your screen, go to Stroke, activate Lazy Mouse, and play with the lazy radius. And that's going to help you get really smooth curves and lines with whatever you're sculpting. So if things get a little janky, too jaggy, wiggly, that's what you can use. I didn't like the tongue, so I went in here and with clay buildup, holding Alt, I just basically sculpt it away, go back and forth over the tongue, and then I can hold Shift to smooth things out if needed. Wasn't in love with the cheeks. It's not terrible, it helps with the silhouette. Just playing with some new ideas with it. It was a little too sharp, it didn't look realistic, so I'm going to push, pull, just see what I can come up with. You can tell on the right, I always go to that zoom button to zoom in and out. I have never really taken the time to use all the Wacom controls by holding Alt and Control and zooming in and out. So I probably should do that someday. But alas. This time, instead of adding a capsule, I'm going to basically turn a sphere into a capsule. Back again in that gear with the extender, and when I extended, you can see the polygons are stretched. So I can do a simple Z-remesh with a low resolution. Remember, the low resolution is going to help you from creating lots of lumps and just going to help smooth out your mesh, whatever you have, because it's a lot more simple. Less to worry about, less to deal with. So back in the gear, one of my favorite deformers is Bend Curve. If I grab that orange handle, it's going to change how many control points I have. But first I need to change the axis. So grabbing the red, I can pull, and now my control points are scattered vertically. And then I can just grab these, push, pull, wherever I want it to go. This is super powerful for all kinds of things. Just rotate it 180 degrees. I'm going to push it in here, scale it where I want it, get it into position, and I'm going to use Clip Curve. Clip Curve is a great brush. Doesn't actually cut the mesh, it's just basically squashing it all where that line is, which is fine for this project. I like the arm so far. It's starting to actually feel less of a pickle and more of a cactus. So at this point, I'm going to push the arm into position and really take a look at the silhouette. Currently, it's a little small and it's not reading as well as I would like. So I'm going to scale this up and then play around with the deformers inside the gear. I really wanted this taper feel, but I wasn't quite getting the results that I wanted. With Move Topological, I can adjust this taper kind of manually. The taper wasn't giving me what I wanted. So just I can push and pull however I want. I have more control this way. Then back in there using the damn standard brush, I am going to make this little crease. Kind of make it look like, it really looks like cloth. And I like that. It's a cactus, I know, but that fold of skin, so to speak, I liked how it turned out. Using Move Topological to push that elbow kind of closer together, and you can see it pinched itself, which was a nice little, happy little accident. This is Shane Olson's pinch brush. I like it a lot. It's really good for stylized characters, that Disney Infinity kind of style. He's done several of those characters back in the day, but if you go to 3dcharacterworkshop.com, he's got an awesome set of free brushes, and I like this one a lot. That pinch on the elbow was a little too sharp, so I can smooth things out. Go in there. If I hold Alt, right, the brush is going to do the opposite. So instead of cutting in and pinching, I can pull out. There's the clay buildup, beefing up the form, and then I can smooth the outside sections of it. Kind of looks like a leather couch or something. But I went with it, and I like it. Holding down Shift to smooth. If smooth is not working, if you hit Lightbox, you can always go to brushes and then smooth stronger. I mean, smooth should work unless it's like super dense polys. So once again, we're gonna rotate around to the back using those same set of brushes. Like the damn standard, we're gonna make a very similar crease. So grab the damn standard brush, make some of those creases. Based on where our geometry just kind of falls, it kind of already creates a crease that you can see. So I followed that for the first one, added the second one, and the rest is up to you. So after that, I wanted to duplicate this guy. So I go to my subtool, press duplicate, and I don't just want to rotate it in 180 degrees, but I want it to be mirrored because I like the front crease better. And then I can mask, invert my mask, hide that, and then delete hidden. So you can see at the top right of my screen, I've got a couple custom buttons, but that's under visibility. You can hide parts of your mesh and then modify topology, delete hidden. Okay, so basically it's the same arm on the other side. I wanted this one to be a little smaller. Just have some contrast in the character. We got large on the right, smaller on the left. Nothing too crazy here. I'm gonna just change the shape using Move Elastic. Move Elastic is a really fun brush, especially if you're going for like a caricature. You model just a normal face. Move Elastic is really fun to just push and pull some of these features around. I didn't do that here, but with the arm, it's fun to just push and pull, get some different shapes, different ideas going. Awesome brush. If you haven't used it, please check it out. Even just loading up the basic anime head using Move Elastic, see what you can come up with. Once again, we're going to drop in another sphere and then use our deformers to turn it into a capsule. I'm going to use Extend to stretch it out, and then this time I'm going to use the Flatten deformer. Flatten this one side of the capsule. So after I did some of these stretching and pulling, Z-remesh this bad boy again, and then go ahead, detect edges, because I have that flat edge I would like to keep. Yeah, the Z-remesh or whatever it is, version 3 or whatever, is really great. Detecting those edges, better for hard surface for sure. So back into my gear, I'm going to taper the front end of the tongue to make it thinner, and then the back end to make it a little bit thicker. Then if I press W to get back into my gizmo, I'm going to move it into position, rotate it just where I want it, and position it in the mouth. After that, press the gear once again, and I'm going to use the bend curve deformer. One of my favorites, don't forget. I'm going to make sure I pick the right axis, and then how many control points. For this one, I really only needed a few, so I picked 3. And it just gives me control, so I can position the tongue in the back of the mouth, position the tongue right at the bottom of the mouth, just to curve that down, play with some different shapes, see what I like. So just like before, I'm going to use that move brush. This is Move Elastic that I'm just pushing, pulling, shaping this tongue, make it a little fatter. Once you try something, you don't necessarily need to keep it, right? I had a small, tiny little tongue, and I looked at it like, that's not great. Let's try something different. So I tried the wider tongue. The wider tongue was a little more realistic, more appealing in my opinion, using that damn standard brush. So I can carve out that, whatever that crease is in a tongue. I don't know the scientific term, if that has a term. If your smoothing isn't quite doing what you want, instead of using Smooth Stronger, lower your resolution and your subdivisions, and then hit smooth, and then slowly build up your subdivisions. Be able to smooth that out. And every now and then you can use Lazy Mouse. So I wanted this really smooth curve. So I went up to stroke, Lazy Mouse, adjust the radius and the steps, and then we're good to go. Cool, this little guy is coming along nicely. There's lots of changes that I will make eventually. Using Inflate, trying to give the illusion that there's just a little chunk down there of his tongue, instead of being so sharp on the edge like I had. So currently, I have everything else hidden. I've duplicated the body, and what I'm going to do is project details. I've used Sculptris Pro on the body itself. Topology is really terrible. So linked above, there will be a video that shows you step-by-step how to do this projection. So all I'm doing is duplicating the mesh that has terrible topology, Z-remeshing, getting better topology, and then projecting all the details onto my other mesh. That way I have subdivisions. So follow that link above if you need that more in depth. This is going to help my sculpting process later on. Well, thank you for sticking around for the video. If you found it useful, be sure to subscribe. In part 4, we will be going over the details of the cactus, details of the pot, as well as a little bit of poly paint.